Let's talk about making decisions. So we have all been on a particular life journey. And this life journey is full of decisions. Every decision you've made, every decision you didn't make, they're basically making the decision made for you, has put you on a particular life journey. And if you think about it, you can probably think of major milestones that have changed the course of your life. Meeting that person, getting married to that person, having that kid. Big events have changed your life. But you can also possibly think of seemingly small things. You missed that light and ended up at the coffee shop, and that's where you met your spouse or whatever. These things have all contributed to your life journey. Everything that you've been through, everything that you've experienced, everything in your life has made you who you are. But let's not forget that there are many ways your life could have gone. And many of those are unavailable to you. You can't do those anymore. You can't have access to their lives anymore because the past can't be changed. All right, now this makes it tricky because it is now impossible to actually gauge. This graphic is a little bit misleading because this suggests if I would have done something different, my life would have changed, or my life would be better or worse. But we can't actually know that. We can't actually know what would have happened if we took a left instead of a right because you can't go and play that out. So it's literally impossible to know. That can be scary because if you think forward now, these are still open to you. All of these journeys are still available to you. And when you make a decision, we're kind of making the same connection here as with when we look back at our past. Because when we decide to make a decision for the future, we want to make sure, most of us say, I got to make the right decision. This has to be the right decision. This has to be the best decision. But the fact is we don't know what's going to happen. And even if we made the best possible decision, there's no way to know that we made the best decision. There's no way to know how everything else would have panned out. Because we've got this uncertainty curtain that covers up what the outcomes can be, because we can only see the one thing. We can only see what actually happened. We can only see what our actual decisions are right now. We can't know the future, but we can take some pretty good guesses. Right? So we can't know for certain, but we can make some pretty good guesses. And that's the decision-making process that will help you live more intentionally. So here's how this works. I want you to think through life or think through your decisions through the lens of a decision tree. What does that mean? That means you've got this place where you're starting and you've got a couple of options. You got, who knows what this could be. This could be anything. Option 1, there's option 2, there's option 3. You've got these choices available to you. And then depending on what you do. So option 1 is I do this or I do that or I do the other thing. Those are the 3 choices. And if you do that, you can write out the pros and cons of each of those choices and then compare how that might happen or how that might look. Now, sometimes there'll be sub-decisions you can make. If I picked option 2, then I can do two things. I can do either option 4 or I can do option 5. And maybe if I choose option 3, there might be an option 6 and an option 7. Who knows? But if you draw these out, this helps you start to get a sense of what might happen. Instead of avoiding, that's what a lot of us do. We tend to avoid and not want to think about what this happens. So you do this and then you lay out the pros and cons of all of these choices. And again, this is just our best guess. We can't know for certain what's going to happen when we do this. But we take a good guess and then we make our decision based on the information that we know. We don't judge our decisions based on the outcome because there's too much out of our control when we think about outcomes, goals. You can control the system. You can control the process. You can't control the outcome. So let's use a real life example. I send you an email. If you're not on my email list, you can go to meaning.blog and sign up. I send out a weekly email with an article in it using a lot of these drawings, usually the same drawings. So we got that weekly email, and when you get it, you can either ignore it or you can open the email. And if you decide to ignore the email, well, you might save a little bit of time because I don't have to open that email, but I'm not going to see any stick figures. And I might actually miss out. I might feel like, dang, what was in there? I missed out on that Derek newsletter. Shoot. All right, so that's what happens if you ignore it. I get this sense of FOMO that I'm missing out on this really intriguing stuff. I miss out on the stick figures, but I do save a little bit of time. All right, now what happens if I open the email? If I open the email, I can either read it, I can click through and read the article, or I can just skim through the email without clicking the article. Now, I try to set this up so that even if you don't click through to the article, you'll still get a sense of what I was talking about. So you'll still save a little bit of time, not as much time as if you ignored the email, and you'll understand a little bit about what the topic was. Now, let's say you click through to the article. What happens then? Well, now you experience the best 10 minutes of your life, or at least 10 minutes of the day, not of your life. Man, this is so intriguing. This is so great. You get to enjoy expert level stick figures. That's a thing that I just made up. Expert level stick figures. But now when you go through this, you can make a better decision, a more intentional, more conscious decision about what you're going to do or what your options are. So let's use this as somewhat of a financial example or just an everyday example. Let's say I'm hungry. And I might say, all right, well, I got to eat some lunch. So I can eat lunch at home or at the office or bring it to work or whatever. I can go get some fast food, or maybe I go get a fancy lunch, a really expensive lunch. So these are my choices. So let's put the pros and cons, right? So if I eat lunch at home, I get full. I fill myself up. There's no cost, no marginal cost anyway. I don't have any extra cost, so it's basically free. But I'm just eating gross leftovers. But it's free. Maybe I go get some fast food, and there I fill myself up. I get full. It's pretty low cost. But then I get that gut rot, that fast food gut rot. I'm making fun of this. I eat more fast food than you do. So this is just a comedic example. Or maybe you go get a fancy lunch, and if you do that, you get full. It's very expensive, but it's really great food. So this is a real-life example of how you might look through a decision tree. Right? Now, one thing I want to point out is if you see the same thing in every one of those options, right? I'm full in all of these options. If you see the same thing in all of those options, that's called a sunk cost. You can ignore that. That does not count in your decision-making process. For example, real-life example, I was heading to Costco, and I had to wait in traffic, and then I wait for a long line, and then when I finally got there, the place was a zoo. And it's easy to think, well, I've already been through the traffic, and I've already been through the stoplight. But if I go through the decision tree, I can say, all right, what happens if I go to Costco? Had to sit through traffic, had to sit through the crazy light, had to struggle to find a parking spot, had to manage the zoo of the place, and then left with the thing that I needed. What happens if I turn around and go home? Well, I had to sit through the traffic, I had to sit through the traffic light, I didn't have to find a place to park or go inside, and I didn't get what I want. In both of those cases, I sat through the through the stoplight, and I went through the traffic. So I can safely ignore those from my decision-making process. If it's already happened, no matter what you do, that's a sunk cost and you can ignore it. And then, as you've heard me say many times before, in life, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. And part of this decision-making process is to understand more clearly what you're trading off. And then making your decision knowing what you're trading off. So I don't have to spend any money, but I'm not going to get very good food. I can get really good food, but I have to spend a lot of money. I can spend a little bit of money, and I know that's not the healthiest option. Now you know exactly what you're trading off. Now, all of this is still uncomfortable because you still have to make decisions knowing that you can't fully know if you're making the best choice. So think of it this way. This is your comfort zone. This is the things that make you comfortable. And this sounds silly, but feeling uncomfortable or discomfort is obviously outside of your comfort zone. With practice, though, you can grow your comfort zone to include discomfort. You can become comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And once you do that, Now you'll start to make better decisions because you're not going to do it out of a place of avoidance. You're going to do it out of a place of intentionality. You get one life. Live intentionally. Greetings, Derek again. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more, please head to meaning.blog, and there you can learn about all things related to money and mindset and purpose and meaning. And you'll be able to find out how we might be able to work together. You'll find more articles. You'll find links to videos. You'll find online courses, all kinds of things to get you going on your journey towards living more intentionally.